While I explain how to use these headsets, let me say hello. Thank you all for coming. I am Emil Ferris's publisher, and I'll be introducing how this works. I'd like to thank Fundación Telefónica for hosting this event. I'd like to thank Elisa for interviewing Emil, and I'd like to especially thank Emil. Let me introduce her very briefly. I think that most of you know who she is. She is an artist in the literary and comic world who is extremely well known. A couple of years ago, she was totally unknown. She was a revelation for everyone, for all the publishers, for the editors, for all of us who could even read the book before it was published in English. We saw how out of the blue there came a masterwork, a contemporary classic, as has been said, called What I Like Most Are Monsters. Is monsters. My favorite things is monsters. Much has been said about the book. My favorite thing is monsters, and well, let me stop here. I think it's better if Emil spoke about her work, and Elisa is here to ask all the right questions, I'm sure. Thank you. Welcome. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, Emil. Thank you, Jama. As Jama was said, a year ago, Reservoir Books published My Favorite Things is Monsters. And you've had several awards, 3 seasonal prizes, color prizes. We'll talk about this a little bit later because I think it's rather important. And I think that we need to speak about that. And also the Ignaz Award in Angoulême, also in the comic conference in Barcelona. So let me start by asking you one thing that surprised me a lot by reading this comic. Your main character, Karen. So this character is always between two worlds, to say so, between different realities, to put it that way. And at the end, well, this is a pre-teenager, that is a person who is in transition between two ages or two periods. So can I ask you about this Karen and the fact that she lives between these two worlds? Can you develop this a little bit further?
Well, I really appreciate that you put it that way, because I do see it as a bridge. And I think Karen would kind of appreciate that too. I think there's just this moment, and you can imagine this because if you're here right now and you aren't now a teenager, you probably remember when you were just gangly and kind of like horrible, because you were almost an adult, but you weren't. And your teeth there were too many for your mouth, and your hair was weird. I mean, I never left that stage. I'm still a monster. But, and I think if we love ourselves, we have a moment of sympathy for that monster inside of us. Yeah.
Yes, there's something that I especially like about Karen, and it could be said that nothing could be more feminist than turning your main character into a detective, always looking for a hint and looking for justice, or at least looking for truth. Finding truth, as we all know, can be more or less difficult.
Kid, we had a movie theater called the Valencia, which I know it's a city here, isn't it? Well, we named our movie theater after this place. It was a great theater, and it was all Spanish Gothic architecture in the style that the United States would make Spanish Gothic architecture. And it was very romantic to me. So I used to sneak off, and they would have Humphrey Bogart all day long. So you could get there at like 9 o'clock in the morning, and you could stay till 9 o'clock at night and see every Humphrey Bogart film for $5. So as a kid, I wasn't sure what the truth about anything was, but I saw this detective, and I fell in love with the concept of the detective in my mind as a kid who loved monsters. The only thing that would have been better, and I say this knowing that Humphrey Bogart had too many teeth in his mouth, but the only thing that would have been better is if he was in fact a monster. So there was this way that these two things for me intersected, and the thing that I thought would be the most wonderful would be to be a monster detective. Because everything was absolutely mysterious to me. Everything. And I think that's the moment when you enter adulthood and you really have to ask yourself, why do they do this? You know, who is happy with the system? You know, so.
Ujú. Y creo que en ese sentido,
And I think that in that sense, walking around the city, that is, being a walker in your own city, walking around, discovering things, has, I think, quite a lot to do with that idea of discovering and going beyond what you see and creating your own realities through those walks and those discoveries.
Walking, and you have a walking city here. So I love this city already because you can go out and just start walking. You know, so much of the United States is suburbs, and there aren't actually sidewalks. You can't leave your house and walk anywhere. You can walk to the mall, but if you do that, you can be hit by a car. It's very easy to do. So, but the wonderful thing about walking is that, you know, you create relationships with other people's cats through the window, you know? They come to know you. I mean, you have this whole, this is what builds stories. And before, when we were in the green room or whatever, we were talking about stories. And so I think people who walk, I think there's a connection between people who walk and people who love stories. Because when you take a walk, you update yourself on the development of that child who's your neighbor. This is not something you do when you drive everywhere, because you don't see these things. So I think there's something marvelous about that. And congratulations, you know, I don't know. But it's wonderful. I love it. I love your city. So.
ujú. Y bueno, también esa protagonista.
And the main character is a walker. She gets inspiration from fiction, the fiction that you would get familiar with through the movies and things like that. So there's this kind of relationship also, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Karen loves horror and detectives and all of that. Absolutely. Absolutely. And stories.
Ujú. Y el recurso de la ficción.
And the resource to fiction, what does it represent for you as a reader and as an artist? And what does it represent for Karen in her story?
I think fiction is the way that we survive things. It's the way that we heal from trauma. It's the way that we contextualize our lives. I mean, we need, it's our religion, really. I mean, we might have a faith, but really, stories are our religion. It's how we understand anything. It's no mistake that the greatest holy books have used parables, stories, to teach us how to live, or how not to live, or what the world might be made out of. I think it's really exciting to me that the book has done as well as it's done with younger people, because the book talks about using paintings and other things as inspiration for understanding our stories. And I think this is something that if we live inside of this tiny little world, which is the size of a phone, we start to lose something about stories, because stories have to become very, very brief to draw our attention. And paintings, you don't see the details in paintings. You don't understand them, because there's something really dynamic. I was at the Prado 2 days ago, and thank you once again, Madrid, because that was amazing. There's nothing like standing in front of a Goya. There's nothing like it. Mm-hmm. And that's something I want people to get back. I want them to realize this is their heritage as human beings on the planet. These great works of art belong to them. They're their birthright. It is imperative that this next generation understand that and embrace it.
Has dicho además que las historias.
Did you say that stories are our strength? And then a little bird told me that you've been walking and going into museums in Madrid, especially the Prado. So what monsters have helped you sort of push forward in your growth? And I guess that you have found some paintings in the Prado that might have been of interest to you. And also at the Thyssen Museum, I believe.
You've got great paintings here. You've got, well, Goya understood monsters. I mean, he did. He understood people. Well, that's the same thing in my book. I've never seen, I think if you, I'll tell you this, just between us, right? My father is who Dees is based on. And I didn't exactly make Dees my father in the book because, my father's proclivities were whatever. So, he loved Goya. He adored Goya. And he never got the chance. He died far too young to come here. But this was his dream, was to come to the Prado and see Goya. And I got to do it for my father. And, I remember him handing me books, because that's all we had, books of Goya's work. And this was how I first learned about comics, really, truthfully. And no offense, if you're an art historian, I'm sorry. But to me, Goya taught me everything I needed to know about comics, because he was able to express human beings in such a way that they had a life inside of them. They weren't just placeholders. They had a unique quality, a dynamism. And he didn't use, perfection to do that. He used his soul to just express that. So absolutely, I was blessed that this was a great thing, to be able to have seen them in person.
También has comentado en no pocas.
You also commented on several occasions that fiction has saved you. In what way? You've also said that fiction as a magic ritual. Can you comment on that?
This is embarrassing, and I'll just admit it. I don't like to disbelieve anything. This is one of my, when I started writing, and it was a long time ago, I decided not to cross anything off the list of possibilities. So I listen to a lot of conspiracy theories. I enjoy them. I don't care if they're true or not. I just love the fact that somebody's saying, this is possible, aliens live in the center of the earth. Great! That's fantastic! I love that! There was an Atlantis, and we're 1 million years old, and the pyramids, we come from inside the pyramids, we're an engineered race. I don't care, it sounds great. I'll take it all. I want all of that. Because you can build the most amazing stories from this. And even if you're not writing science fiction, it's so wonderful to just say, okay, everything's possible. Isn't that what science is supposed to be? I mean, these days, science tells you what isn't possible. We already know this. Really? Do you really? I mean, who was there 30,000 years ago? That you know. I mean, where's the film footage for that? So I like to just live in a world where, I don't know, it could be, and let me think, how would that be? Well, so the other night, I was having a particularly rough time because, I have this cough and I wasn't feeling good. And I was thinking, am I going to even come to Spain? It's something I wanted to do my whole life, but I don't feel really good. And you'll probably hear me kind of coughing, and I'm sorry. But it came anyway, and I'm really glad I did. But I had this dream. So, is there such a thing? Maybe you know the god Ganesha? Do you know who that guy is? He's fantastic, isn't he? He's like the greatest god. Because, his dad cut his head off. And then his dad felt bad about it, as a dad's going to do, right? Because that's a pretty shitty thing to do to your kid. And then he went out and found another head. And he had to cut the head off of an elephant and give it to his son and put it on. I don't really know how that works, but he's a god. So he did it. And I love this story. So I'm in this hotel room with Ganesha in my dream. And I'm thinking, why can't Ganesha be God? Why not? I mean, I love this. And it was just a fantastic thing. Because Ganesha encouraged me to come to Spain. In the dream, he had a little mouse or a little rat who was helping him smoke a cigarette. And in between, I know, because he has these big feet, these big things. He can't actually hold a cigarette. And I didn't know that Ganesha smoked, but I found this out in the dream. And I mean, of course he does. He's eating all this candy or these treats. Of course he smokes. So anyway, he said, really, go to Spain. I love that this happened, okay? And if I said to myself, well, that's ridiculous, then I would never write anything. Because everything is ridiculous. Everything that you want to read about, it's ridiculous. And that's what's so great, Okay, I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Preguntarte también, porque a fin de cuentas el terror.
Let me ask you, terror also looks for some kind of emotions that have to do with the abyss and purity of feelings that have little to do with anything fun or with salvation. It has to do with more abyssal realms that help you sort of project yourself in the future. How do you see that?
Yes?
I
don't quite know. Because this cut out in the middle of this thing. It kind of cut out, so I don't really know. Translator? What? Can you... maybe find another way. Maybe say it again.
O la repito yo, como me digan a mí también. Vale.
Okay, let me repeat the question. You were mentioning that fiction has also to do with the impossible, that makes you do things that you did not expect. But terror has also to do with darkness, with things that are difficult to reveal and that are not very pleasant. So how do you conceive terror?
Did anybody here see the movie Get Out?
Justo.
Okay. I went to this film with one of my best friends who's African American. Her name is Crystal. We've been friends. I'm going fast. I'm sorry. We've been friends since we were 8. Catching up. I didn't mean to go so fast. We get out of that movie, and she said to me, "This is the truest expression of what it is to be black in the United States of America that I've ever seen. So there we are. So about 3 months ago, well, you've seen Night of the Living Dead, right? Okay. And you know how it ends. And you know that at the ending, when it was originally shown in the 60s, people were up in arms. They were very upset. Because the guy who rescues everyone, this is not a spoiler. Oh, I think I'm losing this. If you're my age, it's no spoiler. The guy who rescues everyone, the black guy, the cops kill him at the end, right? Because he's the real zombie, right, in their eyes. Well, 3 or 4 months ago in Midlothian, Illinois, a man saved a bunch of people in a shooter situation. He was the security guard. He was black. The cops were called, and they came in and shot him. Is this horror? Or is this reality? And are we just telling ourselves the story that we can't face? Horror is this amazing thing. It can tell us a story we don't want to face. It can envelop it in this systemic kind of structure so that we know how it's going to develop. There's going to be something scary. Then it's going to get scarier. Uh-oh, something went past me in a mirror. Wait a minute, they're all dead. Oh no, they're not. Oop, it's coming out of the ground. And then we feel better, right? Except that that's true. This stuff is true. You know, it's not a mistake that the first, I think it was Norway, reapproached their Nazi past with a movie like Dead Snow. The Nazis came up out of the ground. Oh my gosh. Oh, isn't that strange? I think it was the first movie they ever did that had a Nazi theme to it. And it was a horror movie. So I think that the book, there's a part of the book, you know, Karen has a past. She has something, and if you've gotten to the end of the book, you know, something horrible happened in her family that nobody wants to talk about. And we live in a world like that, though, don't we? Because if you're raising a child, my daughter's 22, but there came a moment when I realized I would have to explain the Holocaust to her. And that was a hard moment, because I was telling her, this world I've brought you into is nowhere close to as beautiful as I wish it were. It has some dark things in it. And we have to do that for our children. We have to find a way to explain this place to them. And it means revealing family secrets, because we're family. And this is what's happened in the past of our family. So there's something metaphorical in that. And that's intentional. And it's wonderful, isn't it, that we have these ways of experiencing these awful things and then going out to dinner afterwards, you know, and talking about the movie. But we need it. Mm-hmm. We have to have it.
Very recently, it was the Free Comic Day Free Comic Day, and you have immersed yourself in history of comics with your book. And I wanted to ask you what has changed in the past 2 years since Fantagraphics published My Favorite Things is Monsters, and many authors like Art Spiegelman have mentioned that, have asked themselves, where had you been all this time? What has changed in the past 2 years?
Oh, wow. God. You know, I'm really grateful to you. And I just want to tell you that. There's something weird that started to happen. And you did it. You're to blame. I'd be working on the second book, and I'd feel like the first book was accreting substantial reality. And I thought, well, this is weird. And I work at night. And it's because people who were reading the book were imagining the book. And when you imagine a thing, it becomes more real. It exists in a place beyond all of us that we all create, but that is beyond us. And so you were causing this world that I had created here, that was partly my world growing up, but also partly a work of imagination. You were allowing it to become very substantial. And I started feeling that, and it scared the hell out of me, in a good way. And so, you taught me about what magic was, in a way. I used to see this in my daughter's face. I used to see it in my friends' faces. I was a kid who had severe scoliosis, so I couldn't run on the playground. So I would stand at the gate, and I would be all alone, and all the kids were playing, and I was just standing there. So I decided to start telling ghost stories. And I would always leave all the moment, you know, that I knew the bell was going to ring, I would say something terrifying, you know, so that they would be. And I saw the look in their faces that I used to see in my daughter's face when she would be told stories, and it's this like kind of like, and that's the magic. That's when somebody's in that world so completely that they're not even aware of the fact that they look like a moron. You know what I mean? And it's great. Excuse me. Moron is not a particularly, you know, polite thing to say. But they look like they're a zombie. Okay, that's better. I love that we went there together. I love that you helped create that. I love that you added something. Because I think every single person comes to the story and sort of completes some part of it in a substantial way. They add something of themselves. This is magic. And that's the thing that I most wanted to talk about, is magic. Yeah. And we're doing that. So thank you. Thank you.
I know that this question, authors usually don't like it, but many people have asked me to ask you in turn because they want more. They want to know when they will be able to read the second volume of my favorite thing is Monsters.
Just like I did those kids at the schoolyard. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about magic, and then I'm going to answer that question. So you know you have to wait. And I did that to you at the end of the book, and I'm sorry. But I learned that if I didn't do that, the next day, all the kids would just be playing tag. So, sorry. But I wanted some kids with me. So, about magic. Well, everybody is lying to you. This is what I believe. You came here, so you want to hear what I believe, and I'm going to tell you. Okay? Everyone is lying to you. Oh, not everyone. Our social structures, our schooling, maybe our science, our politics for sure. Gosh, could corporations ever be lying to us? That can't be. What are they telling us that isn't true? They're telling us that everything is screwed, deeply and badly screwed, and there's nothing we can do about it. So-and-so won't be in the Paris Accord, this is bad. I get that. I get that our planet is sick. It is definitely sick. But I am absolutely telling you, we are magic. Human beings, we're being told that we're not. We're being told that we should imagine this earth without us here. Don't you dare do that. This earth needs us here. We are in a relationship with our earth. We are part of it. This cycle of our dying and going down into it and coming back up out of it spiritually, this whole thing we're doing, this is what keeps it alive. It needs us. It wants us. We mean something to this planet. And this planet is alive. It is a goddess. That's what the Gnostics believe, way before any other religions were. They believed that there was this elemental being that had children and that turned herself into a planet to take care of them. And what are we doing to her? We're drilling down into her and injecting her with poison. Now that's not an act, that's not us in this room. We know that. So we're magic. We don't have to take this. We don't have to allow this to happen. We can change this by the power of our lives, by what we do inside of ourselves. We actually have the power to change. Its imagination is magic nation. We are a magic nation, and we are premised in power. We don't know, because we think we die. But I have this feeling that out in the entirety of the universe, there are beings that look at us and go, wow, if they only knew. If they only knew, they'd be unstoppable. Damn good that we're not letting them know. So I'm going to just leave you with that, and then talk about the second book situation. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know if I should be honest with you or not. Should I be honest with them? This is what I can say about that. I've had to slow that down. I've had to slow that down. I've had to slow it down. I wanted the best book I could possibly give you, and I'm really sorry because some bad things happened, and I'm doing the best I can to manage them. We authors have to survive, and your support of the book in Europe has made it possible for me to live. Has made it possible for me. You've bought my work, my originals. It's made it possible for me to pay my daughter's tuition. But authors, you have a great law here. I like the fact that you don't discount books. That's fabulous for authors. So without saying much more than that, I can just say that, I've had to keep working instead of just working on the second book. It's been necessary that I do illustration. And it's been necessary that I come here and sell my originals. So I am doing the best I can to make the best book I possibly can for you. And I want it to be as splendid as you deserve. I want it to be as fully realized as you deserve. And you really do deserve that. So thank you. Thank you so much. Your support. And thank you, Elisa. Thank you so much.
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello.
We also know that you love the movies, and I would like to ask you also if that at some point there will be a magic translation into moving images of My Favorite Thing is Monsters, if there might be a TV project or a film project about it.
Some very focused people who are trying to figure out how to turn this into a film, and it's kind of like it's a monster. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a sewn together. Is it a detective story? Is it a horror thing? Is it a, it's like, this is why the first 48 publishers of the 50 who showed the book said, okay, no, we don't know what it is, and no. So, we're looking for a director, so if you know a good director, lots of really good ones have said, oh, I like the book, and I don't know how the hell I'd do anything with it. So I have some directors I love, and some of them are Spanish directors, I'll tell you the truth. Because, Pan's Labyrinth, right? Like, what great movie. Del Toro would be fantastic, right? But But anyway, I can't say that. I'm not supposed to say that, but if you know him. Yeah, so there are people, Sony is presently sort of holding the rights, but they have to come up with a director. So we're working on that. And so it'll be a movie, which would be okay. You know? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's not going to be as good as the movie that you guys made in your imaginations, but it'll be okay.
Y claro, pregunta.
And of course, I wanted to ask you about potential casting of actors, the character that you envision as the main protagonist of your book.
Any idea? Does anybody know anybody that they think would be great? See, I don't think anybody can figure that out. I mean, like, I would love to see, like, for Anka, I'd love to see, like, Rachel Weisz or Natalie Portman. See, I think they could do it. I really think they could do it. But also, you know, there's others. But I mean, in terms of Karen, you know, I don't know who's kind of werewolfy, and you know what I mean. I mean, it was just gonna be really a hard one, I think, to figure out how to cast that. I think D's will be fun to cast. Do you know what I mean? Like how cool will that be? Yeah.
Sería una película.
It would be an FX movie, an special effects movie.
Special effects, don't you?
Sí.
I mean, don't you think? Because what do you think? What do you think? Special effects? Yes. Okay, and you're not appalled by that, right? It wouldn't be like upsetting. Okay, you just made a face like, I don't know. You did. You were like, CGI? Okay, all right. Well, I'm with you, kinda. I'm kind of with you on that. I don't know. You could overdo it. It would be really awful if it was overdone. Yeah.
I also thought that the person in charge of the photography should be someone really interesting, because as we said in the beginning, the drawing is extremely important in your book, but also the color is something that has been awarded with an Eisner and prize, and I wanted to highlight the way you face that work of not only shaping the figures but also coloring it. How do you handle that?
Like, how do I think it's because I'm crazy. You know what I mean? Like, okay, who decides, oh, I'm going to make this really long book. Let me use this one pen here to do it, right? Like, that's insane. That was really stupid. Do you know how many times I was like, I'd look at my daughter and go, I'm so stupid. This is the hardest thing in the world I chose to do. But I did it, and that's why it took forever. And there's all these little lines, you know, that's a crazy person. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do that. And I kind of wish they would let me write the movie, because I think I might do a better job, but you know, it's Hollywood, and they're like, oh yeah, kid, you did write the book, but you can't write the movie. We know best. And I'm thinking, really? Like, my agent actually said to me, oh, if they're going to spend millions of dollars, you know they're not going to make a bad movie. Really? Like, have you gone to the movies ever? Like how many times do they spend $40 million and make the most horrible movie you've ever seen? I'm like, you never saw a movie? Well, yeah. So I don't know. I shouldn't be saying this, because they're going to all hear it, and they're going to be like, well, Emil, that was really nice what you said in Spain, but we didn't appreciate it very much. Okay. Yeah, I know, I'm in trouble.
Y la pregunta...
Obviously, a must-do question is, how do you start drawing? How do you feel that call towards drawing and all these things that move you towards starting this work, also considering your tradition and what you had done and the type of drawing that you had done up until the moment that you started this work? Because you worked in other types of drawings before, mostly having to do with a feeding type of drawing or a necessary type of drawing. So how do you get to that point when you start writing this book?
I don't know what you do, but do you just like even if you're good at it, or do you just kind of like start it and go, oh God, I gotta do it. And then you start doing it and you go, oh, I remember I love this. You know, like it's like swimming the English Channel. Like whoever dives in, they're like, oh, I gotta dive into the English Channel. They dive in, they start swimming. And it's really not, you know, it's not flowing, but then you get a little bit in and you start thinking about something and you're sort of in a rhythm with it, and then you love it. Like you remember, oh yeah, this is what I do. I just do this, and I love this. And I kind of do that all the time when I start a drawing. I'm like, oh, okay. Sometimes if I'm drawing naked people or monsters, I totally love it. Like I love every second of it. If it's just like the 40,000th drawing of D's, I'm like, oh God. Yeah. Because, you know, you have to draw, the problem with comics is you have to draw the same person so many different ways, so many different times. You just have to. And you have to remember that you're generous. And I can't just go, well, that's Karen, you know? Now, there you go. I have to make it, like she has to have an expression. I have to convey what she's feeling for you. So this is a guilt trip. No, I'm just kidding. It's not really a guilt trip. A little bit. It's a little bit of a guilt trip. But this is a country that was founded on the Catholic Church, right? So you understand this stuff, right? You understand guilt. So I'm just doing that a little bit to you. But yeah, no, you don't always love it. That's the truth. Is you don't always love what you do, but you do it anyway. Like you don't always love being a parent. It's horrible sometimes, isn't it? You know, like when you have a fever and your kids have a fever and they're pulling your hair, it's like, why did I do this? Why did I do this to myself? And it's kind of like that with anything you do, but you just keep doing it, you know?
What advice would you give someone who's starting off right now in this world and who wants to take drawing in a professional manner? To draw comics or illustrations?
I just feel like saying, you poor fool. I love you so much. I love you so much, but you're such an idiot. No, it's really the best thing to do in the world is to make art of any kind or to express yourself. And if you're doing that, you are part of the tribe. And I have a very wide belief of what that is. I believe that people who cook are making a love and an art in the world that is very important. It's healing. I mean, it's just like, I think the span of art is very wide. So if you're creating something of beauty that you're giving the world, and we were all sent here to bring something unique and beautiful into this world, and yeah, I'm for you. If I were to talk to somebody, I would say, learn as much as you can about it. Don't rely on the digital, because sometimes, here's the problem with the digital, if you're drawing, is that it doesn't always allow you to express your uniqueness. You have to do a lot of actual drawing. I think it's good for you outside of the computer, because you can really figure out who you are as an artist. You can express what you genuinely are. And then you can translate that into a digital world if that's what you choose to do, which I think is great. And I see a lot of beautiful work being done that way. But it's really important for people to find themselves and to actually draw the world and really observe it and see it from their perspective. And here's the most important thing for anybody to know. You only have to do your work. You come here to do your work, not to do someone else's work. So as much as you might admire someone else, you're not here to do their work. You're here to do yours. And it's needed. We need it on the planet, now more than ever. We need your stories. We need your vision.
Y precisamente
And from that perspective, what is your relationship with other creators? Also with your audience and with the social media?
Be right now. Because I couldn't do it anymore. I've just drawn away from Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Because, I would get concerned about people, or things would happen and I would think, it's almost like watching a soap opera. I hate to say it, because you can't actually give somebody a hug. You can't take them out to lunch. They live in some other place in the world. Maybe you can say one thing to them. That's about it. So I drew away just so I could work. And my relationship with other creators, well, can I be really frank? Everybody has their own trajectory. Mine was to have the longest overnight success in the world, right? Because I've been doing this for 45 years. And then this happened. And so there are a lot of people who are like, wow, I wish that happened to me. And you know what I think? I think maybe you don't. It's hard. It's not just easy. There's things that there's always a price to be paid. When I was working in total obscurity, I never had to think, what if this is horrible? I would think, yeah, it's kind of shitty, but, I'm doing it, I'm fine. Now I have to think, well, have I insulted anybody by this? And it's so much. And I have to say, no, I got to get that out of my head and just do this work. So there's a bridge to be crossed. And I think sometimes people don't realize that there's a payment to be made for the attention on your work, which is great. You want the attention anyway, because you have something to say. Probably, if I had an earlier overnight success, I would not have had as much to say. But coming to it as late as I did, with, falling on my face in as many ways as I fell, I had more to say. And that was a good thing. And I'm kind of grateful, so.
If you think it's all right, we could perhaps open a round of questions.
At me and nobody asked a question. Could you? And I'm like, come on. Somebody has a question, don't they?
podemos seguir preguntando sin problema, si nadie, pero es porque son tímidas.
It's because people are shy. I think so. ¿Y cómo?
No sé.
I will tell them about the most embarrassing day of my life or something. Because there's so many. I have so many to choose from that, do you ever wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, in 3rd grade, I stood up and called the teacher mommy. You know what I mean? Do you ever do that? Do you ever go, oh, God, that was the worst? Or no, I do that. I do think about those things. So there you are. There's something. I don't know. Anybody? Oh, please. Make some shit up.
Why did you decide to use a ball pen instead of any other thing? What does a ball pen have? Is it special for you? In what way?
Question, and it's so special for me. Because I was a kid, my parents were both artists, which meant that we were really poor. I remember there was something very special about hot dogs because we ate so many of them. And, oh God, we were so poor for such a long time. And I had, every year before school would begin, my mother would buy me 2 notebooks and a small little clutch of pens. This is it. Here you go. And so that's how I made my art. And that's how Karen makes her art. But, I was thinking about it, and, all the lines are kind of like a prison. They're like the bars in a prison. But she writes against the lines. She breaks out of that prison. She creates the biggest world she can with this little pens and, and that's so great. It means we shouldn't dismiss anyone. It means that everybody, wherever they are, has something to tell us that we didn't know, but that we need to know. So it's just pens. And it's good. It's good for it to be like that. See, I did pretty good there, so your question I'll do even better with. Come on. Oh.
Hi.
Hi.
Do you have any favorite comic author or graphic novel authors? And specifically, do you have any knowledge about Spanish novel, graphic, or comics author? Do you have any favorite one?
I was told by Manuel Muñiz yesterday, who interviewed me. I was told that the comics I loved as a kid growing up, and especially through the 70s, were done by a lot of Spanish artists. That there was United States publishers would hire Spanish artists to do these wonderful black and white drawings, mostly ink. And I have a feeling that I spent my whole childhood in love with Spanish authors and never knew that I was in love with them. And so now I'm really excited because he recommended a book to me. It was called From Boom to Bust, or From something Boom to Crash, or something like that. And that I could go and see a lot of these wonderful authors. And I'm very excited to pursue that. But I would say to you that, I keep going back to Goya. I fell in love with Goya as a kid, and it's the best. If you want to learn to draw, you just look at those drawings. They're just, the line is so beautiful and so perfect. But in terms of modern day, there's so many. It's just crazy how many people are great in the good work that's being done, isn't it? It's like a renaissance. And I'm always enamored and amazed by people who I'm just kind of flummoxed. But of course, I love people like Chris Ware and Daniel Klaus and Art Spiegelman and Alison Bechdel. They are really fantastic, and I love their work a lot. Oh wow! Okay, this is a harvest. I'm getting excited. My God.
Te lo dije, eran tímidos y tímidas.
Bueno, no sé si será una cosecha estupenda.
Well, I'm not sure the harvest will be that good, but anyway, as you were speaking about Goya with such great admiration, I thought about the piece of work called The Dream of the Sleep of Reason Produces Monsters, and I wonder whether you are familiar with that piece of work.
But I think the full quote, isn't there a full quote? And it kind of throws light on art and everything as being kind of important. Trump, I don't know. Anyway, did I say Trump? Did I say that? I don't know. Yeah, there's this, but see, I think monsters are good. Like, when I was looking at that picture as a kid, I thought, I want to join the monsters. The sleeping guy looks boring. Like, screw the sleeping guy. The monsters are cool. And I've always thought the monsters were cool. And I always thought the villagers were boring. Look at them. In the movies, they're just like, they're just like, would you want to be a villager? No. They're horrible. They've got a mayor, and he's sure. And they don't have anything going for them. They live in this boring town where they don't think about anything except what the neighbors are doing. The monsters, though, are like elegant. Or, they're dripping with blood, or they're flying, or they're, going underground. They're doing stuff. Or they're active. They have active lifestyles, Yeah, I look, that drawing always, like, the club to belong to was the Monster Club. And I could never understand why anybody'd want to do anything else, you know? I still can't. No. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Hello, Emil. Nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you.
I would really
Hi.
like to talk about the idea of feminism and the whole book, the way women fight sexual harassment and help each other to cope with it.
Wow, yeah. Yeah. You know, I said something, and I shouldn't say it again because there's a lot of men here, and I don't mean to be, I'm not offensive. I'm not trying to be. I think it's hard to be a human being. Like, it's hard to get born into a human life. And, you know, I think if you get born into the life of a person who maybe has physical challenges, is female, is a minority, is potentially a very sensitive man, you know, a man in a culture where men are not encouraged to be sensitive, or you're going to be mistreated if you're sensitive as a man. I think that there are lifetimes, like we're little spirits up in the air, and then we're like looking over the array of possible lives we could choose to kind of fall down into. I think the strongest spirits choose to be those kinds of lives. They choose to be women. They choose to be minorities. They choose to be, you know, different in some way that will cause them pain. So, yeah, and I think that when we combine with each other and we recognize that and have sympathy for that, because there's also a lot of pain in, it's going to sound terrible, but there's a lot of pain in being the bully. You know, that's a very isolated life. That's a life that's dark, you know, that doesn't have the joy of love in it, you know. If we had sympathy for our villains, how horrible it is to be a villain. It's such a shitty life, you know. It's not full. It's not, there's no love in it. How can that be a good thing, you know? It's fragile. It's a brittle life, you know, but the strong people are frequently what look on the outside to be the weakest ones. And if we were aware of that in the way that we combined with each other, if we were more sympathetic to each other, I think that's what you were getting at when we were talking about that's what fiction does. If I write a story, you know, and I've read a lot of great stories where I ended the story feeling empathy for the villain, understanding that the villain has got a trajectory of difficulty that is much greater than any hero. If I have that, you know, experience, then I'm going to approach a person in my life maybe with a little more wisdom. So I think it's really important that women are doing that for each other right now. But I also think it's important to realize that if they're fighting something, well, the Bible has an interesting phrase. It says, we battle not against people, but against powers and principalities of the air. Right? So it's not a human being that I'm battling. It's this entity of non-thought that is part of this person's reasoning now. So that's an important distinction to make. And I think it allows us to be stronger and to know that we'll defeat it because it's just the principality of the air. You know?
¿Alguna pregunta más? Si no hay ninguna pregunta más, yo voy a cerrar con una cuestión.
There are no more questions. Let me ask one last question myself. Although there's another question, I think. Hello. My question is a little bit similar to the previous one. I really wanted to know why did you choose that style of crosshatch artwork, because I think it's complex and very time-consuming. So why did you choose that exactly?
I mean, it's like, I don't know if anybody, are there Virgos here? Do you know? Oh, you're Virgo. Well, then you understand this. Virgos. Okay, Virgo. Yeah, we like really difficult tasks that we're going to have to do perfectly, right? Like, make it as hard as you can and tell me I have to do it perfectly. I'm on fire. I really want to do it. That's crazy, right? That's nuts. But, and I never understood that about myself. I never understood that I was like that. My favorite quote about Virgos was made by a Virgo. It was made in Canada. I was interviewed by a guy there, and he said, Virgos don't believe in astrology. And I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was really funny. We're far too reasonable to believe in astrology. Anyway, but, you know, when I learned that about myself, I thought, well, of course I did this crazy thing of sculpting. But it's sculpture for me. Because when I'm drawing, I'm carving space. And I do that by just making all these little lines. And these little lines create this dimension for me. And part of what I like to do while I'm drawing is if I'm drawing somebody's hair, I'm feeling it in my imagination. I know what it feels like. If I'm drawing a wall, I'm touching the brick. And that's because when I was a kid, I've said this before, but I had to ask, why do I do this? And because when I was a kid, I didn't walk for a really long time. I was like almost 3 years old. So around like 2.5 years old before I walked, because my feet didn't grow. And they later learned why. My feet were like super tiny, you know, which would really be cute, unless you realize it's horrifying, you know. So I didn't walk. So instead of getting up, you know, like a kid toddles to the edge of something and they go, you know, I didn't do that. So I just looked at the thing. And I had artist parents, so they gave me pens and they said, oh, here, you can draw. So I would sit in the middle of the room and draw, starting when I was really little. And that's how I touch things. So I remember feeling when I was drawing something like I was touching it. And maybe that's why. You know? So I need to create this space, and I need to touch it. And each little scratch is touching it.
¿Alguna pregunta más?
Any other question?
I was
no.
actually.
Oh,
So
okay.
thank you
Sure.
for your talk, Emil.
Oh, sure.
It was great. I was wondering if you wrote the script before, or if you just were sketching or drafting characters and they just took off on your own. How was the creative process for you, the intermingling words and images for you?
I'm a really super boring person.
Really? I don't think so.
Really?
After
No, it's
listening
really
to
true.
you, I doubt that, really.
No, it's really true. I like this. I go to a restaurant and I literally order the same thing every time. Every time. Every time. I just am really boring. And the only place I'm not boring is in the art. That's the only place in my whole life that I'm not boring. So I like to be dangerous there. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, I like that feeling. So no. I wrote a story, and then I didn't follow it. And it can be found on the internet, the original story that the book is based on. But I didn't follow it. You know, my daughter kept going, What are you doing? This isn't the story. And I was like, yeah, I know. It's going to get weird. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, and she's like, who's that? Because I had all the pages up on the walls, and she'd be like, who's this guy now? And I'd be like, well, I think, you know what I mean? It was more fun that way. It was edgy, you know. It was risky. And like I say, I don't take risks in any other place. It's like I want that omelet. It has to have that cheese. I like those potatoes. I don't want anything else. Just that. That's fine. And I'll do that every day, you know. But in that world, I need it to be scary. And that's part of the reason the second book my fault. My part of the fault for the second book is that it was like, no, I just made a chapter, but it's wrong. This isn't how things go. There's something else here that I didn't find. And I'm going to tell you, I was at Angoulême. I'm not even making this up. And I haven't made up very much of what I've told you so far today. Not very much. But I was there. And he knows because I called him. And Kurt. And I actually figured out some shit about the second book at Angoulême. Like right before I was supposed to go on stage and I was really sick. I had a bad cold like I kind of do now. And I was like, my God, this is going to change the whole second book. And it will. And that's crazy. Like it should have been done like a long time ago. So it's still going on. But it'll get there. You'll get it. You really will get it. You know? Really, I promise.
Él quería hablar también.
Oh, see, because you raised your hand and then you looked around and I was like, no, I'm confused. But I'm glad.
Yeah. Buenas noches, Emil.
Buenas
Yo no
noches.
quiero preguntar.
Hello, Emil. I don't have a question. I just would like to give two pieces of information that you might like. When you were small, you went to the Valencia movie theater and you watched a Humphrey Bogart movie where he played a vampire. But Humphrey Bogart was also a vampire and a monster, as we all are to a certain extent. I don't know whether you're aware of that movie, but there's a movie with Humphrey Bogart as a vampire. And then there's another movie where he plays, and then Goya did 6 paintings called The Capture of Bandit Maragato, and some comic experts in Spain consider this to be the first comic strip ever. So they're independent paintings, but if you put them together, they're like a silent comic book by Francisco de Goya. So they're easy to find on the internet. And thank you very much for your work.
This is like when somebody in the audience says, I'm your father. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, what? That's so cool. No, that's so cool. I appreciate that. I did not know Humphrey Bogart started as, how did I not know that? I should just pretend I know that. I didn't know that. And then the first comic book, see? That's cool. I want to see that. Thank you. What's your name? Guy who has information? Because that's all I'll ever be able to refer to you to unless I know your name. I'm sorry?
Juanjo el Rápido.
Waho?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
We are friends in Facebook.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
What's your last name? See? It's horrible.
Es que no sé el título.
Waho.
Yeah.
We are friends on Facebook.
El Rápido.
El Rapio. Okay, I'll look you up and I'll be like,
Juanjo el Rápido is his Facebook name. Juanjo el Rápido. No, Juanjo, Juanjo or something with a J.
send me that on a private message and then I'll get it. Just, you do it like a Chicagoan. Hey,
Perfect,
hey
thank
buddy,
you.
it's me. Do it like that. And I'll know it's you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
¿Alguna pregunta más? Tenemos un poquito.
Any other question? We have a little bit more time. So if there's any other question.
Favorite monster, but not human being. Another one.
Okay, well, wait. How many people here grew up loving monsters?
Well,
okay, you did, but I mean, are there others? Come on, you're in Spain. Come on, you guys invented monsters practically. Okay, and who was a werewolf person here? You were I love that. Okay, werewolf people. Who were Come on, everybody wants to be vampire too. Right? I know everybody wants to be.
People.
Yeah, I want to write a story. Everybody wants to be a vampire, right? No, vampire, because they're like the nobility of monsters, aren't they? They're like the privileged nobility of. And they know it. They're so sassy. And like our swamp creatures here. Is any swamp people? I'm always amazed by swamp things. Oh, swamp things. Okay. And like, is there anything else? No, I'm just kidding. Ghosts, are there ghosts? People who like really imagine themselves being ghosts? You don't see that too often. Those are the people you get scared of at signings. It's like, you know, you're open to ghost? Okay. Anyway, I mean, because it's creepy. It's a person that's like wearing those X-ray glasses. It's like a person who's going to see you putting your girdle on. You know what I mean? Like, I was in the room. It's like... Anyway, I'm just kidding. Are there other monsters that I haven't mentioned here? Witches? See, I'm all over those witches. Witches are cool. Okay, well, nobody's copying a witch, but I will. At this point in my life, I go witch because I'm writing spells. Another witch up there. Okay, good. At this point in my life, I'm making spells. I don't mean that I actually sacrifice children around a bonfire or anything like that. I don't really do that. But I do make spells. And but when I was a kid, I started out werewolf. I mean, I literally cried over the Wolfman. I just was like I was so brokenhearted for him. And then, as I entered teenagerhood, I thought, well, maybe I could be a vampire. That I couldn't do that. I was never, you know, you have to be beautiful and kind of like sort of otherworldly. You know what I mean? Like you can't be a werewolf. You know what I mean? It can't be a hairy clawed thing and be a vampire. Just isn't that, there's something else altogether. So I kind of always wanted to be one, but I would never have made the grade. I would have been like they would have been like, get out of here. You're not one of us. And I knew that. I finally realized that. But, you know, I still have dreams. You know, a girl can dream. So, yeah. What about you?
Between a werewolf and, I'm sorry, but we're not hearing the microphone.
People.
Yeah.
Yeah, cat people. I'm with you on cat people.
The film was beautiful.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I loved that. Are you a Leo too?
No, I'm the bull.
A Taurian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well that's cool. And you go for cat people. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I love that one movie but you know, it's sad because she got so messed up. She was so punished for being cool. Yeah. Like, you know, just cooler than everybody. You know, like, oh man, that's just it's such a drag, isn't it? Yeah.
I think that in this bet that we're making on hybrids, which is a space and a time where we can be, we are going to close this debate with Emil Ferris. Thank you so much, and thank you to the audience as well for being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Ha sido un placer.
Thank you.
It's been a real pleasure. And you are awaited also in Malaga and Barcelona, so I think you will have a pretty interesting tour around Spain. So thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And the first 20 people who have the privilege of having the book signed by Emil, please join us over there. And it's been a real pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias.